Welcome back to the True Church of Jesus Christ with His Latter-day Saints. This episode we're getting into actually reading the Colburn Bible and Bible studies. Yay! Who never would have thought that Bible studies leads to transcendental consciousness and actually the spiritual worlds? Yay! See, people like to make jokes. See, that's the bread of the Pharisees, right? The Simpsons, Rod and Todd, and Ned Flanders. Yay! Let's read about the arky. Yeah, you could read about these transcendental pastimes, but it's not going to really develop your brain mind if you don't believe, or if you don't have faith, or if you think this is a joke. So God's not really joking because he reveals himself to people that don't think they're joking. And it's very startling when Jesus Christ, this figure in time and space, he's just controversial. If people don't believe in religion, I had a hard time not believing in religion, but not getting involved in man's ways because he's just a 50c3 tax-getting savage. He just cares about money. So hi diddly doodly, Flanders. They don't teach about enlightenment in these churches. They just go there. See, these are the wolves. The wolves lead people down into the pit because they have no spiritual consciousness or they don't know me. And it's Judgment Day. If you don't know me, it's going to be very difficult to live in this life. Sam's brain mind found that out already because God placed him in destitution, lots of proclivities of stupid pastimes like eating dog crap of previous activities, gave him a lot of poverty, danced with misfortune, just did the tango with her. And then during this, a lot of fright, fear, anger, worry, sadness, a lot of that floods the darkness. See, that's what darkness is. Interactions with the outer world and just the city of the nine gates. Just the law. The lost and fallen state has no idea about the pearl of great price. The unknown one within. No, Sam just entered into this lost and fallen state, this city of the nine gates. Got entangled. He did the dance with the material creation. And the material creation told him who's boss. It wasn't his brain mind. It's not the five-headed serpent. See, everybody believes that they're going to die in this time, in this age, whatever. That's not what God teaches. He came to give man life, and life more abundantly. But if you want that life, you have to come to me. So that's what God did. He broke Sam down a little bit. See this crushing? Or you could say, not injure. I will break my bride, like Job. God didn't injure Job. It's just this material nature. And it rubs up against us because men have to fight death. See these principalities, these cosmic rulers? Yeah, man's in time, right? And the planets just move him about. Even though he has two legs, another greater force moves him around anyways. So it doesn't matter if his brain mind is hooked up with sexual desire. See, Sam did the tango with people he shouldn't have. And the unknown one was very angry. And as time goes by, Sam forgets that he's under the 7 days of the week. These galactic powers that move him around. He knows it, but he doesn't know that one day, these powers under the 12 months, the 12 constellations, are going to give him reactions of his work under sexual desire, which is fear, anger, and eventually leads to destitution. 2017, that's what God revealed to Sam. He's like, when you're in this principality of cosmic creation, there's a five-hooded serpent that attacks man where he can't see because of his sinful proclivities of sexual desires with loose women, as the prodigal son parable explicitly says. So prostitution. Yeah, Sam's walking in space, right? The 7 days of the week. Yep, the galactic planets. And then he's under the 12 constellations, the 12 months. Sam's walking through time with sexual desires and fear because he forgets the unknown one within him. And this crushing, see, this Job experience, it's more for God to reveal himself in us, to give us his promises that I'm with you, so you could dwell in the secret places of the Most High, so I could give you the secrets of creation that you can't necessarily get if you're in wealth, a good economic situation, see, or you're very joyful, because you're not in any of these other dualities of life. So Job experienced wealth. And this is what the suffering of the Christ is. If you could experience some of this wealth, the Christ also suffered destitution. And that's what's suffering with him. So that's why St. Paul's gospel is not really properly understood to these brain minds. Because most of the university professors are still indulging in wealth and prosperity. They have not given these cycles of destitution, misfortune, and poverty. So that's why St. Paul's least understood in the gospel. Because men have to suffer for my sake, because my son has suffered for the sakes of everybody. God himself came down and suffered. All of these things. And eventually led to things that Sam's brain mind didn't get crucified out in the world. He didn't have men put him on a cross and then start nailing him down to the cross. No, Big Brother does that for Sam's brain mind. But Sam's brain mind had to pay a price. See the pearl of great price? He was in time engaged in useless affairs, known as the outer world. And he had to stop engaging that in order for Matthew, you could say, chapter 11, we'll go to verse 25. On one occasion, Jesus spoke, Father, Lord of heaven and earth, to you I offer praise for what you have hidden from the learned and from the clever. Yeah, all the learned guys and the clever guys had wealth, had some woman, and were delusioned by prosperity. Because that's all this five-fingered creature actually has. See, he doesn't know about the five-headed serpent in an altered state, a lost and fallen state, because men used to have a bright nature and one with God, and they came from the spiritual realms. No, you don't hear the modern theologians talk about man coming from the spiritual worlds. No, God's kept that hidden from the people that are still reading ancient Greek in the universities, all coughed up with wealth and prosperity. Yep, God keeps his secrets revealed to only just the merest children, for those that bring themselves to nothing. Just for me, just for God. Why? Well, I don't know, maybe the secrets of life. Everything has been given over to me by the Father. So Jesus Christ breaks a lot of rules, especially in tradition. Everything has been given to me by the Father. So that's all of mankind's religious knowledge, his transcendental knowledge. You see why God, the unknown one, gave, you could say, the brain mind, the Srimad Bhagavatam? Well, because the Spirit of truth is there. This John 14, verse 16. You see, who gives these things? Makes the old into new, the storehouse of man's knowledge. Well, I don't know, this Jesus Christ, this unknown one, everything has been given to me by the Father of creation. That means all of knowledge. That's why Sam's brain mind is now engulfed with God's knowledge, because there's, well, I don't know, there's a Srimad Bhagavatam, there's a Colburn Bible, there's a Pistis Sophia, there's a Quran, there's a Book of Mormon, there's a Doctrines and Covenants. God has been punishing Sam and crushing him with scriptures day after day after day, because if he doesn't, oh, misfortune will attack him. Sam knows a lot about now how this comforter, this coming to me now, you see. No one knows the Son but the Father, and no one knows the Father but the Son. See this spiritual consciousness? Yep, Sam was hidden away. He didn't know anything about the unknown one until this. Until whom the Son wishes to reveal. Oh, in the year 2022, that's when God himself wished to reveal himself. Sam could not do that as a product of the city of the nine gates. It doesn't matter if he was a learned scholar. So if he studied in a university for 20 years, he could not make the Son wish to reveal, because it has to be by God's will. That's what people are praying for. That's what salvation means. You're actually praying for God to reveal itself to you, and that's what constitutes being delivered and saved. See, Sam learned a lot of things about the unknown one afterwards, not before, of how the unknown one operates. It's only when Jesus Christ or the Spirit of God, through its own mercy, only if God wishes to reveal. And I guess God took pity on his creature and revealed itself to just the merest children who are hoping that God's way will overcome, see, the principles of this life with Ephesians 6. If Sam prays about he will overcome misfortune, he will overcome poverty, he will overcome destitution, and all these other things that God meant Sam to do with his word, Jesus Christ. So this is why God called Sam over to me, because Sam can't do this on his own. John 15, he needs the unknown one in life, the void. He needs the void, or else Sam perishes and goes to hell. That's what John 15 means. Without me, you wither and die. See, Sam, this wither and dying, destitution, misfortune, and poverty. Oh, he withered and died all right. He brought himself to nothing, but for my sake. And now Sam knows this. Come to me, all who are weary, and find this world burdensome, because it's an altered state, a lost and fallen kingdom, cursed. But I will refresh you. The unknown one, the unknown one will make you dwell in the secret place of the Most High. Take my yoke upon your shoulders and learn from me. So what does that mean? It's prayer. Matthew 6. See, the idea now that God lives my life, or the Good Shepherd goes before me to make the crooked places straight. So what are the crooked places? Misfortune, poverty, destitution. God makes a way where there was no way before, and it's all within the activity of your own consciousness. So Sam has to keep his mind on the heart and understand that I am always there with these scriptures. See, that's why the Word of God was given to man, to overcome the world with the Word of God, which means also the scriptures. So Matthew 6 again is don't take thought. Well, now Sam is very confident of not taking thought for misfortune or poverty or destitution, because he now knows verse 9, that the unknown one is there. So that's what God gives to man, his only begotten Son, the light of God. And it helps Sam. Now I live, yet not I. See, I get reborn now. And how do I get reborn? By constantly taking the yoke from me and learning from me, which is always these scriptures. For I am gentle. You see God's peace and rest? That's what Sam feels if he keeps on praying, if he keeps reading the scriptures. Just like he learned in the gym. If he kept going to this place and lifting the weights and eating the food properly, he was going to get the peace and satisfaction that his results would pay off, which it did. So God's the same way. If we work in God's principles, God reveals himself to us and gives us the rest and spiritual enlightenment that you cannot get in the world. So your souls will find rest, and my yoke is easy and my burden is light. Sam found that out too during the midst of the rough. So the rough, rocky, difficult situations in Matthew 13. He knows a lot about misfortune and poverty, but he also knows the Good Shepherd. And if Sam, with his days and nights, if he prays and reads, then the Good Shepherd leads him out of the misfortunes and poverties and the sicknesses and the diseases of this world. And that's how the brain mind understands more of the higher proclivities of God's scriptures, because he lives and moves and has his being. You see, in the city of the 9 gates, man is up against soldiers, 360 of them during the day and 360 of them during the night. He's in this time, this cosmic creation, and he's been given the unknown one to help him in this creation, to reveal himself in this creation, and to give him the garment, so the prodigal son, if he keeps following this way. Enlightenment, and ultimately revealing the spiritual kingdoms within you. So we'll go to the Colburn Bible and study more about this quote-unquote philosophy that God has. So remember, this Colburn Bible, I'll go right to, this is chapter 15 called The Voice of God, verse 42. Therefore, look behind the sentences strung together with mere words. I am the unknown God veiled from man's mortal limitations. The universe came into being because I am. And its reflection is in matter. You see this I am, it's also in capitals in the Colburn Bible. It's very important to understand the God that we're worshiping. So the God of Abraham, Moses, and the Holy Bible, that's Jesus Christ's name, I am. So if we keep reading these Bibles instead of the bread of the Pharisees, which is man's ideas about anything, see, we're building up faith in that I live, yet not I. We're opening the door to the great I am within us. Only God can reveal itself to us if we keep seeking, asking, and knocking. But that's his name. And if you take the name of God, it's very simple. You don't have to be Sam anymore. I'm just who I am. You see, just like God revealed himself to Moses. We have to simplify our personages. Simplifying that personages is forgiveness. Sometimes when people try to get in the way, we have to be Moses when he confronted Aaron. So when people are not doing things right, that's when correction and stiff reproval. God is wrath and mercy at the same time, because Moses didn't kill Aaron. When he, when things go in our experience in that way of intensity, God's wrath is mixed with love as well. So we'll start at the top here. Chapter 15, the voice of God, verse 38. Men call me the God of battles, which I'm not. For good men fight each other when kings declare war. Men call me many things, but this does not make me become what they think I am. I'm the hidden power, which ultimately rights all wrongs. That's why they say God's the all good, which will eventually redress all injustices. I come to all who are worthy, but it is the lonely, the unwanted, and the undesirable who I seek. To me, the dispirited, the perplexed, and the sorrowful, and the humiliated soul. So yeah, I was going through that in the year 2017. That's why these scriptures were so important for me, because now I could realize what I was going through and who I was going through with. It was God leading me to these perplexed experiences, these humiliations of the soul, because Jesus Christ was humiliated on the cross. See, this is taking his suffering with us. So the unwanted, the lonely, the humiliated, are irresistible magnets to God. So that's why in these last times you might see messengers who might look scraggly or lonely or have stories of whatever. That's because God brings them to nothing so he could reveal himself. It's God actually doing these things so the poor can inherit the kingdom. He's fulfilling the scriptures in the last days. The poor and the destitute are going to be picked up to his kingdom. Not the Greeks or the guys studying ancient Greek. Yeah, the Greeks are in hell actually. And that's Dante's Inferno. But the guys studying ancient Greek and nowadays, well, they're not going to be going to my wedding feast, as God says. I'm the welcoming light and the end of the road, the companion who watches in compassionate silence, the understanding friend, the ever-ready arm. I am he who presides over the haven of peace within your heart. To those who unite their spirit with mine, and those who are in harmony but not united, I increase that which they have provided in what they lack. I turn a like countenance to all men. My love for them remains consistent, but those who join me in my devotion to my cause are truly in me and I in them. This is the everlasting and unchanging promise unto me. He who walks with me, serving my cause, shall not perish. All Sam's brain mind knows a lot about the Good Shepherd and understands these scriptures. So join your spirit with mine. Give me your confidence and trust. And thus, united in harmonious relationship, you will come to know the supreme goal, which is coming back home to me. That's the kingdom of God, or dwelling with God forever. Men say they cannot know me through their senses. This is true, for I am above and beyond the reach of their finite senses. The senses of man are not meant to be the means for experiencing me. So that's why God's been allowing me to teach. In order to gain the wisdom of God, you have to not engage in the outer sense perception. You can only do that by prayer or by thinking about another person, which is I within you already. So I am already there. You just have to come to me. And that's opening up the door. That takes us away and makes us come into the supreme goal, where they cannot experience God with their finite senses. The senses of man are not meant to experience God. They're meant for experiencing just the material spheres. They are also limiting, shutting out far more than they reveal. Yet men have within them a greater sense which can know me, but it lies dormant in the masses of men. I am the God of men's hearts, the consciousness of all living things. I am the God of consciousness, the listener of the silences. So that's why Sam has been practicing the one consciousness for a long time. He knows these things. But he knows also that the masses of men do not know these things. So that's what gives Sam the advantage. That's what Mr. Musashi's son in martial arts put in Sam's mind, is you have to keep going on this straight and narrow way. If you deviate just a little bit, imagine drawing a straight line and then deviating just a little bit. See, you made the line a little bit crooked. And if you deviate from the path just a little bit, then you miss out on results. Sam really understood that when he was weight training. So when I was lifting weights, Sam knew about sticking onto the straight path and not going to and fro or here and there, and just sticking to me no matter what. And that's what God is trying to make us do, because he's the God of consciousness. That's what's been lost to the church world, is the God of consciousness resides right in you where I am. But as you see, it lies dormant, and you have to learn to kind of live reverse. In the silence is where God is, and his contemplation. So I do not manifest to man through his mortal senses, for these are bounded by earthly limitations. I manifest through the great sense which is of the spirit of a soul. A pure light hides many colors, so I am hidden in the hearts of men. As sparks fly from the bellows of blown fire, so from the eternal fires, the life sparks fly out to glow for an instant in matter and then fall back. So just imagine you press your hand on the sand, and you know how it makes an impression? Well, that's this soul. It also flies into matter, so into the body, and it just has an impression for about a couple years. 70 as it calls, and then it falls back into God. All the souls that come out into time fall back into God anyways. But if you're ignorant in this falling back, that's what constitutes going to hell. You have to choose ye which day you're going to serve. As the sun radiates heat, a flower perfume, and lamplight, so does the heart of man create his own spiritual state. The eye of man sees a pebble, a star, a sheep, or a tree, and these do not appear to him in any way alike. Yet they're all different forms, manifesting in one outflowing force, originating in me. So that's what God talks about, the allness. All of man's thoughts flow out, but the thoughts can attach themselves to different forms. But that doesn't make a difference with God. Everything that flows outwards originates from us anyways in our brain mind, but even more profound it all originates from within me, within the I that I am. So men might be able to think about a sheep or a tree or this, so you get their thoughts caught up in the world, but all of it flows from within their own being and from God itself, which man is, you could say, in a lost and fallen state because he doesn't know where this own consciousness originates from or these consciousness experiences. So this outflow of thought originates within, and that's why prayer, coming within, we can understand life. Or when the Christ says, I am the life, what you see out there is just an outer expression of spiritual darkness appearing as different forms. That's why one has to be reborn into this life only appearing from God, and God is strictly within. The kingdom of God is within us. This outflowing force generated that which gave birth to the substance and endowed it with the matrix of forms. The fragments of divine spirit interpret that which the divine spirit created, but they cannot know it in reality, for it is enshrouded in matter. So that's basically Genesis chapter 1, when God made the creation, right? Well, he's saying here he made a spiritual creation, and then as it says in Genesis chapter 2, like God made creation again. Yes, he put his spiritual idea into forms. So when men see a sheep, they're only seeing the material idea of God's spiritual idea. So a spiritual sheep would look different in accordance to this divine pattern that God set in the beginning. And men just have, you could say, a carnal view or a mundane view or this lost and fallen state view of what God made in the beginning. See, this is what Satan took away from man, this spiritualized consciousness that he once had. But now his ideas or his thoughts, they flowed down into the city of the 9 gates. And the 5-headed serpent has corrupted his spiritual vision. And it says that too in the books 1 and 2 of Adam and Eve. When Adam says, oh, well, we used to see all of creation. We used to see the angels. See, we used to see God's spiritual creation. But since we fell out of the garden and came an altered state, all of creation became hidden from us. And now all we can see is just this outer world. See, all of creation was hidden. And God did that work in the beginning. So this is why there's a Christ, is to bring man back into this spiritual vision or this spiritual world that this devil took man away from. It's a little bit important to understand those values and what God teaches, because in order to understand, you could say, transcendental consciousness, see, something we cannot see. This is the whole message about God right now, and too, what he's teaching about in the Colburn Bible especially, is that there's 2 creations. So there's a lost and fallen state, and man is just given into a mortal view. But then there's a spiritual state of consciousness, which is the gardens beneath which rivers flow. Men can get a glimpse, so that's what the door is in John chapter 10. They can get a glimpse of God's promise, that there is a spiritual kingdom. But you're not going to see what a spiritual sheep looks like, or what a flower might look like. See, those are all detailed, you could say, in the Revelations chapter. So in Revelations 22 or Revelations 21, when there's an explanation of this wall, or there's an explanation of the city. See, it says in Revelations 21, verse 18, the wall was constructed with jasper. The city was pure gold and crystal clear. So spiritual gold is different from mortal gold. Everything in God's kingdom is alive. This is what it means in Genesis chapter 1 when there was a creation and then a recreation. So God made things again. And that's not properly taught in the first and second chapter of Genesis. How the creation was made spiritually first. And then man has a temporal likeness of this spiritual creation because he received a lost and fallen state, death. Once the lost and fallen state, or you could say now the soul, it used to come from God's realm. So King Paranjana, he enters into this lost and fallen state where now things look different. We notice in the parable, it said that this city of the 9 gates, it used to have a celestial quality. Or this garden, it resembles or it templates this celestial kingdom, you see, a copy. That's very important to understand as well too, because this copy is what the devil tried to lure man into. That's what the second and third chapters of Genesis is now this fall into mortality. But the Christian, see, the whole point of the fake, the Antichrist spirit, or you could say the fake church spirit, is the fact that they don't believe in the spiritual realms. The church world, the false Christians, they believe that they came from this world. Like that man just came from apes, and or the Garden of Eden was on this world, and God just, I don't know, whatever. This mortal creation came from a lost and fallen state. See that celestial resemblance? Somebody got kicked out of heaven. And his name was the devil. And this devil formed the second formation out of a copy of this spiritual world. So death doesn't exist in God's realm. That's what's so important to understand in conquering, you could say, the material nature. So when men bring themselves to nothing, there's a spiritual kingdom known as the Sabbath that already defeated death in the beginning. And that's not too properly understood in this recreation. That recreation is in Genesis, but it's not properly understood. If you read Genesis, God creates things twice. And it seems like it's just in time and space. It doesn't put a spiritual context into it, which is the flaw of, you could say, the books of Moses. Because the books of Moses didn't put man in the spiritual worlds. It just assumed that it was already in this created temporal realm. That God made these things, and this realm is just what God made. And it's not, see, when my kingdom, and when Jesus Christ goes up to Pilate and he says, my kingdom's not of this world. Or I'm not of this world. I didn't come down here, like it says in John chapter 1, to do the will of man, to get involved in sensory objects or sense gratification, especially for sexual desires, because God's born immaculately conceived. He doesn't have sexual desires. Only men do. I didn't come to do the will of man, or the will of, you could say, outer worlds. He only came to do the will of the Father, which is to bring man back into the spiritual kingdoms. That's not too properly understood in the context of, you could say, modern man's theology. Modern man's theology places him just in this world. And this world is a product of a lost and fallen state from the realm of the Sabbath, from a prior celestial development, or a covenant, as it says in the Quran. Yeah, we gave Adam this bright nature. He had a covenant with God, but he didn't have any resolve in his kingdom of the 9 gates with this 5-headed serpent. He didn't find any resolve. And so this serpent lured Adam away from the covenant or the bright nature, which is this city of the 9 gates now, this lost and fallen state that has a 5-headed serpent inside. Death. It's always a separation of choose ye which day you're going to serve. With Jesus Christ, we can understand the transfiguration, that there's a spiritual kingdom within the Word of God. And he could bring us out of this world and into the spiritual kingdoms again, where man originated from. Because he didn't come from this world. That's the message of the Christ. That's why the will of God is not understood in this age. So what's the point of going to church in this world to try to get money from people? It's not going to get you any... You're not going to overcome death. You're not going to get any enlightenment. The guys don't know that they came from God. See, just like he said to the Jews, you're of your father the devil. Which means you just get caught up in wealth, sense objects, especially this prosperity. See the cheap seats in the synagogues? That's all this brain mind loves to do. Just get involved in the yellow stool known as gold and think it's highly intelligent and very knowledgeable. But what it's really engaged in is arrogance and wealth and prosperity. And it goes to the cheap seats in the synagogues. And then when it goes up to Jesus Christ, and Jesus Christ says, even before Abraham was, I'm the unknown one. And I gave him his promise because I appeared in the flesh. And they pick up their stones. So the brain mind doesn't believe even before Abraham was, I am. No, it gets frightful, fearful, and angry. Then it gets very diligent at picking up rocks because that's the proclivity of the brain mind anyways. It just doesn't have any... See how faith isn't in here? Faith or hope or love of God? No, none of that is in the periphery of man. So they pick up their stones and they throw it at Jesus Christ. The guy that gave... It's not the Lord of the universe that gave them the promise in to begin with. See, he came to his own. His own do not understand. When we go into the world and we're confronted with whatever, we've been given the gospel to come back home to the unknown one. And that helps with man's lost and fallen state and his altered being. That's the thing about this human creature. If you believe you're a human being and you came from this world, then you're not from my kingdom. God will say on that day, get lost. I do not know who you are. You are of the evildoer. And you will be burning with all the other evildoers who believe that they're from this world or that they're smart people. That just believe the brain mind is some sort of majesty. Well, they will be going off to their majesty, which is known as the five-headed serpent. And it eats up all the brain minds or all the dead branches. Being out in time and space has killed, well, a lot of human beings. Very few of them, like St. Augustine. See, they caught this, come to me, all who are weary. That's why they're known as saints, because God gave them immortality, eternal life. Yeah, that's what you get when, see, you're not looking for the cheap seats in the synagogues. Or picking up your stones and being ignorant and throwing it at the Lord of the universe when you just think he's Jesus the carpenter. Aren't you just from material nature? Aren't you that guy from down the street there with some other material nature? Didn't you just come from the proclivities of sexual desire? Aren't you just Jesus the carpenter? Oh, that's just ridiculous. Why would any idiot call the Lord of the universe anything but the Lord of the universe? It's because he came to the wrong people. As it says in other scriptures, if he would have went somewhere else, we all would have had a big party by now. But I hope that helped in understanding some of God's philosophy. God does not want people too much to, engage out here in this world, or they're going to be caught up in these various circumstances that they might think themselves expert navigating around. See how there's no reactions to work or mistakes? You got to be very careful how you work in the material nature, because this brain mind thinks itself very smart nowadays. all without navigating the unknown one and with his knowledge. Well, that's no good for the five-fingered creatures. So until next time, take care.